The third anniversary of the disaster at Bagram Air Base, where 13 of our finest were killed. America's reckless Iran policy has the Middle East on the brink of war. Rising attacks on the U.S. power grid. This is Dr. David D. Schein for a special episode of Saving America with our weekly update. It's the third anniversary of the disaster at the Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan with the Abbey Gate terrorist attack. 13 of our brave members of the military were killed. At the time, Kamala Harris claimed to have been the last one in the room with Biden. She recently referred to the disaster as a courageous decision by Biden. She seems to have left out her own participation. She went on to say it ended America's longest war. She missed the part about billions of dollars of weapons left behind and the critical strategic value of the airbase, in addition to the horrendous situation where a number of America's allies and some American citizens were left behind. As the son of a 28-year vet of the U.S. Navy, I have strong feelings for our military. Yet Biden looked at his watch as the coffins of the 13 were brought home from Abbey Gate. Neither Harris nor Biden saluted the dead this past week. However, former President Trump honored them at Arlington National Cemetery. Consider this, please, when you vote this fall for a U.S. president. Who will make this country and the world safer? America's reckless Iran policy has the Middle East on the brink of war. This is from a special report from Fox News. During the Biden-Harris administration, the United States has freed close to $100 billion in Iranian assets. Now, that would be bad enough, but it has also attempted to renew negotiations on Iran's nuclear deal. But I really think that that's kind of a pointless deal at the moment, because they're so close to having a nuclear weapon. I don't think there's anything the United States can realistically do other than locating the facilities in Iran and bombing them. I don't think that's on the list for the next few weeks. Pandering to Iran has produced terrible results. On October 7, 2023, was the Hamas and Gazans' atrocity against primarily innocent civilians in Israel. This was funded by Iran. On top of this, Iran once, but Hezbollah on a regular basis, has launched rocket attacks on Israel, hitting primarily civilian targets. The rockets were provided by Iran in any case. This amounts to over 170 U.S. bases and other assets being attacked. Despite being our only true ally in the region, the Jewish state is now in more danger than perhaps since 1948 when it was created. This is a failure of deterrence by the Biden-Harris policies in the Middle East. The peace observed during the Trump administration proves that a strong position against Iran definitely works. The Philippines accuses Chinese vessels of blocking the South China Sea supply routes, ramming its ship. This is a critical area where major shipping takes place. In this case, Chinese ships asserted dominance over international waters that are controlled by the Philippines. This is a sad development since both countries claim to recently be trying to work together to reduce tensions. China claims sovereignty over nearly all of the China Sea. However, this includes areas belonging to Philippines, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Brunei. An international arbitral tribunal in 2016 ruled that Beijing's claim had no basis under international law. Of course, the CCP rejects that decision. Now to the campaign of the century. It is unquestioned that this is one of the oddest presidential campaigns in the last century. We have had only our second current president decide not to run for re-election. We have had an extremely unpopular VP step into his place. She then selected a very far left Minnesota governor as her running mate. On the other side is a person who lost the presidency largely due to the fallout from COVID-19 and his own weird personality. A big question for over a month has been, when would Harris do her first interview? Well, that was decided that she would interview with CNN, hardly a neutral source, folks. Then we hear that she is so weak she will do the interview with her commie running mate, Tim Walz, next to her. This strange indeed. This appears to be an attempt to repeat Biden's basement strategy from the 2020 campaign. It is not likely that she can do this for the next 60, 70 days here in 2024. So far, the slopstream media have been allowing her that space, and they shouldn't be doing that. Also on the campaign trail, it was finally confirmed that the debate rules will be the same for the Trump-Harris debate on September 10th as they were for the recent Trump-Biden debate. This will hopefully flush out Harris from her basement bunker. Trump will need to focus on the issues and hopefully will win this round handily as he did the first time. Campus anti-Semitism flares again. As the new college school year kicks off, America again faces offensive student protests dominated by anti-Semitism. The worst part about these protests is that they make no sense. Israel moved its troops out of Gaza nearly 2 decades ago. They were not occupying Gaza. The people of Israel have been rewarded by terrorism, murders, and kidnappings. That is not to ignore the rocket attacks. The protesters are plain and simple on the wrong side. They have harassed Jewish students on many campuses. This has to end. On the positive side, many campuses disrupted by last year's school protests have moved to block demonstrators earlier in the process to keep more order on campuses. It is important to note that anti-Semitism, even if disguised as anti-Israel or anti-Zionism, is still racism. Note that public universities and any private university that's receiving public money in any form must provide a campus that welcomes all. I urge the Biden-Harris administration to crack down and immediately withdraw all federal funds from colleges that permit these protests and where any harassment or efforts to block Jewish students take place. A number of states have already won suspension of the ridiculous Biden-Harris Title IX amendments. This is the ones that want to allow biological men into women and girls' restrooms in schools covered by Title IX. These rules were set up to protect women originally. These silly amendments would undo some of those important protections. In the latest ruling, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals granted a motion for an injunction. The court's strong opinion included this language. It is certainly highly likely that the department's new regulations defining discrimination on the basis of sex to include gender identity is contrary to the law and in excess of statutory authority. This appeals court covers Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina. Rising attacks on the U.S. power grid. Security for America increasingly is a concern. One area that is sometimes described as a soft target is the U.S. power grid. A recent BNN Bloomberg report cited an increased number of threats to the U.S. power grid. This would be a concern at any time. However, there is now growing concern that terrorists may target the power grid specifically to interfere with the presidential elections. A North American Electric Reliability Corporation report indicated that the power companies reported 185 physical attacks or threats on grid infrastructure in 2023. That was more than double the number from 2021. One senior U.S. official told the Canadian news outlet that threats against infrastructure such as the nation's power grid are becoming more acute with the election little more than 2 months away. Christopher Goldsmith, founder of the nonprofit task force Butler Institute, told BNN Bloomberg that strategic blackouts could affect voting locations or impact the certification of elections. Something like a grid attack before, during, or after an election could sow in an unbelievable amount of political chaos, according to Goldsmith. A May Bloomberg News poll found that half of swing state voters expect violence around the elections. Politico's news reported in April that rising incidents of domestic terrorism and a surge in state-sponsored cyber attacks on critical infrastructure are posing a heightened risk to the U.S. power system and the elections. The current geopolitical situation has significant ramifications for the North American grid, again, according to NERC. Police have charged suspects in connection with plots to attack energy facilities in Idaho, Maryland, and Ohio since 2022. Folks, this is a real risk. To wrap up on a different note with a report from NTD, a 2,492 carat diamond was just found in the country of Botswana. Lucara Diamond Corporation, a Canadian mining company, announced the discovery of the almost 2,500 carat diamond in Botswana. It is reportedly the second largest diamond ever discovered. The largest was over 3,000 carats and was given to the British royal family, where it was incorporated into some of the royal family's crown jewels. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special weekly report from Saving America. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe on your favorite platform.